I'm Andrew Stevens in Hong Kong. How is this territory being impacted by the financial crisis? Well, you have to look no further than the property market. Prices here have been rising for 4 years, but now they're on the turn. And property is seen as a key barometer of the health of Hong Kong. Why are they turning? People are worried about their jobs because they don't know how bad the recession in the US and Europe is going to be. What they're concerned about is exports. China, right next door, is a huge exporter, the engine room of the global exporting scene. So anything that hurts exports is going to hurt Hong Kong. People here are getting more worried, they're not spending anymore, and they're certainly not spending on big ticket items like the property market. So now it remains to be seen whether there is a full-blown recession in the US and or Europe and just how bad it's going to be for Hong Kong. At the moment though, no one's taking any bets. They're hands off.
I'm Jim Bitterman in Paris, where there are not yet signs of crisis on the street market level, but plenty of worry that there could be soon. With banks and markets running short of cash worldwide, French and European leaders are on the news practically every day here trying to restore confidence, something that in this country can have a perverse effect because skeptics, never in short supply here, find justification for their suspicions. If there is an upside, it's that the weakening euro will help French exports in everything from wine to jetliners, and that declining oil prices are giving a reprieve at the gas pump and a reduction of fuel surcharges at Air France.
I'm Matthew Chance in Moscow, where the impact of the global economic meltdown is being severely felt. Russia is heavily dependent on the price of oil, and with fears of a global recession, oil prices are plummeting. Russian stock markets dropping more than 65% since May. Monday alone saw shares crash 19% as foreign investors pulled billions of dollars out of what was one of the best performing markets in the world.
I'm Sarah Seidner in New Delhi. The financial crisis that started in the U.S. and spread across the world has been front page news here in India for days now. The interesting twist in this country, though, is that only 2 to 2.5% of the population of 1.1 billion actually invest in the financial markets. But the financial markets have been hit hard. Why? Most of the investment comes from outside of this country, and those foreign investors live in the very countries that are dealing with the credit crunch. So little new money is flowing in. However, India's government says it expects that the economy will grow by 8% this year and even higher next year. An enviable position to be in if the numbers hold true.
I'm Adrian Finnegan in London. Take a look at this skyline. That is the city, London's financial district. And look at all those cranes. You could be forgiven for thinking that the construction industry in the UK has been immune to the worst effects of the credit crisis. That isn't the case. Orders are slowing. A lot of the buildings that are going up over there are going to find it hard to attract tenants. House building is at a virtual standstill. Jobs are being lost in the construction industry, and people who are lucky enough to still have jobs are finding the cost of living is rising so fast that they can't afford food, gas, utilities. There is one glimmer of hope, though. Take a look at there on the horizon. Beyond Tower Bridge, you can just about make out Canary Wharf, the new financial centre. To the left of that, you might be able to see the top of the Tower of London, and beyond that is where they're building the new venues for the 2012 Olympics. It's not a construction site on the scale of Beijing. Nonetheless, it's pretty big, and while they're building those Olympic venues, there is at least a lifeline for Britain's construction industry.
I'm Al Goodman in Madrid, outside the bankruptcy court. This is where businesses come to file for bankruptcy and where their creditors come trying to get paid, at least something. Spain's economic crisis is clearly showing up here, a court spokesman tells CNN. There's been an increase of small businesses filing for bankruptcy, especially subcontractors in the construction industry, plumbers, electricians, and carpenters. Also, an uptick in bankruptcy filings by stores that sell home appliances and photographic equipment, and officials expect it to get worse.
I'm Diana Magnay in Berlin. Now, there are a number of questions being raised here about the German government's ability to handle this crisis effectively. On the one hand, the government has long called for greater regulation of the financial markets, so more rules and legislation. And yet, the measures it's taken to tackle this financial crisis over the last couple of days don't really seem to have followed that logic. For example, this guarantee on savers' deposits. The Chancellor Merkel's spokesman said yesterday that that would actually not be enshrined into law. It was just a decisive political statement. Also, Pierre Steinbrück, the finance minister, calling now for a plan B, a shield to protect the German financial system. And yet the details on that are sketchy. Also, how much does that fit in with this requirement for a coordinated approach across Europe that the German government has effectively said it would stick to? All of that contributing to a large amount of uncertainty here, not just amongst investors, but to your average German on the street.
I'm Reza Sayah in Islamabad, Pakistan, where the global economic crisis could not have come at a worse time for Pakistan. Why? Because Pakistan's economy is in a desperate shape and it's depending on the international community for help. On a recent visit to the UN, Pakistan's president, Asif Ali Zardari, asked the international community for $100 billion. Is that money going to be there when individual nations are scrambling to meet their own needs? And here's perhaps the biggest concern, according to analysts, the direct link between a bad economy and extremism. No jobs, high gas prices, high food prices. Perfect conditions, say analysts, for more extremism.
I'm Robin Kerno in Johannesburg, South Africa, and we're in a coffee shop called Binair. Now, the owners of this coffee shop import their coffee from across the continent. These bags are from Rwanda, those ones are from Tanzania, these ones are from Ethiopia, and these bags of coffee are from Kenya. Now, the global financial crisis is directly impacting the cost of these coffee beans here in South Africa. But for South Africa, it's got less to do with commodity prices or credit crunches. It's got to do with the currency. The rand here in South Africa has been tanking against the US dollar for a number of reasons which are directly related to the global financial crisis. So of course this means that the cost of coffee, for example, is going to be going up because these coffee beans cost 10% more than they did last week, because that's how much the rand has dropped against the dollar just in the past 7 days. So coffee is going to be costing more. Also, big infrastructure projects that are so important for South Africa's long-term economic growth, such as the upgrading of South Africa's electricity grid and the big prestigious 2010 World Cup football projects, stadiums and transport. All of these are going to be affected by the weakening South African rand against the US dollar.
Hello, I'm Fanula Sweeney at the Warsaw Stock Exchange. The markets here trading in negative territory, proving that Poland is not immune to the economic storm that is battering the world's financial markets. However, analysts say that Poland is in a better position than most other European countries to hold its own on the markets. Analysts saying that investors will take a wait-and-see attitude, the bailout plan for the United States not being the quick fix that many desired.
Here in Egypt, in the heart of downtown Cairo, the economic crisis is being felt as well. The Egyptian stock market has lost more than 15% over the last session. But on the streets of the Egyptian capital, it is the price of basic commodities that has people worried. The price of food and bread. We've seen protests over the last few months. So when it comes to the market cap of a big Egyptian stock market index, not many people here tell you that's what they're concerned with. However, not being able to put food on the table is their main worry. Hala Garani, CNN, Cairo.